Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny. I'm here with Jim Johnson, project manager of Star Trek Adventures, project manager of Fallout as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, Manny. Thanks for having me on the show as always. But yeah, in the last few months, I've added Fallout to my portfolio, so I'm responsible for Star Trek Adventures and also the Fallout 2D20 RPG.
Well, that must be a lot of fun now. Dealing with it must be fun doing so many fun science fiction projects.
Yeah, I mean, and it's nice that Fallout and Star Trek are very different, so
Yeah.
it gives me an opportunity to scratch two different niches, which is kind of cool.
So today we're going to talk about Star Trek Adventures: The Exploration Guide.
Hmm.
Um, I've read this book, and I have to applaud you and your team because I think I mentioned before how sometimes the books that Modifius puts out and other companies, sometimes if they're so well written, they inspire you. And after reading this, I was like, you know, I missed loving astronomy. I miss looking into learning about planets again and about the different stars and everything. I just take that knowledge for granted. And um, especially at the end of the section where we talk about different class traits for planets. I that was just a great chapter. At the end, I was like, oh, I gotta maybe rethink some things about myself. Like maybe I've been so busy with my life that I'm forgetting the wonders that are out there, and
Oh wow.
who knows how many discoveries that's been happening in the world of space and our study of the stars that I've missed because I've been so busy grinding at work all the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
this is a great book. Let's start at the beginning. So where did the origin of the idea for this book come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we were even with first edition when we were kind of like working through, year six, year seven of that, and thinking about second edition. We just had a lot of stuff that we were in the thoughts about. We were thinking about like in the what was it? The Shackleton Expanse campaign guide. In the back of that, we managed to fit in a couple pages about creating your own sectors and creating your own planets and stuff. And we didn't have a lot of page count left because that was such a massive book already. But I worked with Aaron Pollier, and I was like, let's figure out a way. How can we condense this into a bunch of random tables and just try to like make it some cool stuff that complemented what was in the first edition core book, so that you could create planets and settings and stuff. And that was kind of like our test bed for this kind of a toolkit. And then Captain's Log came along, and we were able to expand it a little bit more and kind of revise some of the tables that had some errors in them, and then just move it forward. And then we wanted to do a bigger book, like a more involved, like toolkit random generator kind of thing, and just couldn't make it work for first edition because of course we were starting to move into second edition development and planning. And so we kind of earmarked as like maybe this is something we can do for second edition. And about the same time as we were developing second edition, John Houlihan, who's in charge of the Oxfam Cthulhu line at Medipius, he created a softcover book called Unexplored, I think, for that game line, which is all about taking different sections of Earth in different biomes, like forests and plains and jungles and stuff, and like how to use that to tell a cool, in his case, World War II / Cthulhu stories. And when I got a copy of that, I was like, oh, this is really cool, and I think we could do something similar with this, combined with the ideas that we had for an exploration type of book. And I got that greenlit, and we jumped into it to make it this new exploration guide. And we stripped out like obviously the unexplored has a lot of stuff in it that's very focused on World War II and the Cthulhu mythos, right? Obviously, that wouldn't fit for Star Trek, but I knew that conceptually we wouldn't need to go into that level of detail for those certain things, but that would leave us plenty of room to do create your custom sectors, create your custom planetary systems, create your custom planets, and then we could drill down into the different biomes on each individual planet and go from there. So it's got a lot of like I'd say they're cousins. I guess the Exploration Guide and the Unexplored book are kind of cousins because they're similar, obviously similar concepts, but we went in a different direction because of course Star Trek is very different than Octa Cthulhu. And so we just, like I said, we got it on the schedule and cranked away on it, and found a place to slot it into the schedule, and made it work. So I'm really really excited that we were able to make it happen, especially right after the tech manual came out. The technical manual came out earlier this year, and we were able to jump this on pretty quickly, which was really cool.
Mm. And viewers or listeners, just so we're making it clear, the Exploration Guide is a source book that gives you the tools mainly to create your own, not just planets, but star systems. And maybe even a little beyond that. And it's funny, this book is something that I didn't think I needed until I saw it, and until
Mm-hmm.
I read it. Like, oh, where's? It's like it's weird because the you've done a great job with the Star Trek books of giving us so much like adventures, campaign book. We have the four quadrant books that is still even the stuff that we know that exists in Star Trek. We're still exploring that universe. No pun intended. And now this book is such a great tool where I can now make any planets. And it's funny. It's like until reading the book, I didn't realize if I were to make my own setting how much I would need to prepare for it. But this book gives you like everything you need. It talks about like stuff that I didn't even think about, like phenomena in the solar system, not just planets. What
Mm-hmm.
else could there be? The idea of gravity wells. I know maybe for some people that doesn't seem that extraordinary, but for me it's like, yeah, yeah. What about that? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, but before we talk more about the setting and stuff here and there, let's talk a little bit about the player options. I have to
Mm-hmm.
admit, so there's two new life paths: independent archaeologist and the outpost scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the independent archaeologist, I couldn't help but think of Vash immediately when I read this. Was that the inspiration behind this life path?
I think Vosh, and I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but the independent archaeologist that's in Lower Decks that becomes friends with Mariner later in the series. But both of those characters certainly, maybe even a little bit of Picard, right? Because like Picard gets hooked on to uh, Dr. Galen, or who was it? I don't remember the Krillin Niskos and the whole archaeological thing, and then the episode The Chase. He gets into that whole archaeology thing. So I think those two characters, the Vosh and the one in Lower Decks, I think those are the two main inspirations that Nathan jumped on and ran with, because the Star Trek galaxy is rife with ancient civilizations and ancient technology that's just like laying on planets waiting to be found. And sure, it totally makes sense that there are independent archaeologists and ne'er do wells who are out there either looking for artifacts for good reasons or maybe not so good reasons, right? And who knows what kind of cool things can happen. And that felt like a really cool character to add to the, or character type to add to the game, especially because in second edition we're really trying to push the boundaries of what player characters can be. Right, it's not just a Starfleet game anymore. You can play Klingons, Romulans, Ferengi, Nausicaans, whatever, and you don't, having more options for non-traditional Star Trek character roles, felt good, felt right. And so I think both independent archaeologist and the outpost scientist fit right into the Star Trek, you know, universe without it having to be Starfleet.
Mm. And I noticed that another sort of a new thing. I mean, there's new career events, but these career events now they can help adjust your attribute and your oh, attribute and a department.
Mm-hmm.
If I may ask, um, are these specially fitted so that um, to help explore strange new worlds? What was the thought behind adding these changes to the mechanic?
Yeah, well, I think I mean part of it. I'd have to really sit down with Nathan to think what was in his brain, but I think part of it is he has been now designing 2D20 games and game systems and game components for 10 years now, right? and he's got just a wealth of ideas in his head about how to build the system, tweak the system, add nuances to the system, do things with the system that maybe you didn't think could be done with it, but just by showing you different ways of manipulating things, you're like, oh, there's all kinds of levers and pulleys and buttons that you can press with just the 2D20 system to make it do all kinds of cool stuff. And it's all built into the system there, right? So I think like my you know mandate to him when he was developing this chapter was, try to make any cool new mechanical stuff that you're making, try to make it all related to exploration, discovery, pushing the boundary of new stuff. Try to make it fit that kind of theme for the book, because that's what we were really trying to do. And and he did largely the same thing with the technical manual, right? All the character mechanics in the technical manual that he created were really oriented toward engineering, technology, gear, stuff like that. And so we're just doing that again, but now this is more with a little bit more of a exploration focus, so that your scientists and your the characters in your group that want to be on that edge of exploration have more things to play with. So that was really the intention there. And then the mechanical bits, I think 2D20 is such a flexible system, and we've seen that in all the different iterations of it, all the different game lines that are out there. Um, Nathan's constantly pulling ideas from one to the other. Like, he might create a cool rule for Dune and find a way to adapt that for Star Trek, and then conversely, he might have created something cool for Star Trek that he can find a place for in Dreams and Machines. And it's just fun that he can play around with it and mix and match.
Oh, that's really interesting. Um, you also have 21 new talents, and I just want to say real fast that life lessons is so far my favorite. I just like the
Yeah.
I just like the idea of a veteran saying, "Oh, back in the days, we done this and that," and kind of like Cup from Transformers. I don't know if
Uh huh.
anyone, not really related to what we're talking about in Star Trek, but that's someone that knows what's going on, and just and by connecting that with some sort of value, you could get momentum
Hmm.
out of that, which is
Hmm.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think
But
the my favorite ones, the two that when I read the manuscript, I was like, oh, I just got so excited when I read these. Shared joy and supportive as talents. I thought those were awesome, if only because they really help highlight how different of a game Star Trek Adventures is compared to a lot of other RPGs, where you're a team, you're a group, you're working together. These talents riff off of each other and work and give teammates opportunities to get benefits. You know, with the talents, where in other games maybe you don't have that same kind of connection with the characters and have mechanics that are built in to help support each other. And I think just the role playing possibilities on those two talents are legion, right? And that just, as a game master, that excites me, but as a player, that excites me too. Just to see that, like, I can have something mechanical in my character that also has an RPG benefit, like an RP benefit. So I was really glad that Nathan was able to fit those into the book as well.
hmm. Now, toward the end of this chapter, I noticed some almost like tools for the game master, especially the one about secrets. And I think that's a great thing to talk about right away. I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell you how in the beginning, many, many, many moons ago, when I first became a game master, how having secrets within the players that either I don't know about or other players don't know about can cause a lot of tension within the group,
Mm-hmm.
and it could cause arguments. Um, you think it'd be a cool idea because we I think sometimes we watch too much TV and movies and we like the secret things, and I enjoy some of that aspect as well. But in real life, though, it doesn't seem to work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that's available to let players know and game masters know, so that they don't make the same mistakes we made when we were younger. Oh,
I want to
so
just highlight. I want to highlight the secrets rules just a little bit, where you now have the option to have secret values, secret hidden talents, and that kind of stuff. I think I was I was really excited to see Nathan put those in, because it really ties into the overall concept of the book of exploration, right? So you're not just out there exploring space and exploring planets. You're also exploring your characters' inner lives, whatever secrets they're bringing with them, the interactions between characters, all that stuff. So I think it's really cool how it all kind of came together. Um, so that we're presenting exploration on different levels and in different categories. And like I know in all my gaming, all my Trek games, like most of the player characters had some sort of secret or thing going on, but we didn't have the game systems or the mechanics to really reflect that and do anything with it other than just like fold it into the narrative. So I'm really curious to see what fans do with these options, these optional rules that they add them into their game. Because like in the franchise, throughout all the different series, we see plenty of characters have secrets or things that get revealed in due course. And I, I say this because in support of the new book, I'm writing a bunch of blog posts that'll go up on the Modifius website, and so I'm thinking about like, oh, what can I even write about? Like, what can I say about this about this book and the contents of it and the secrets? Like every time I think about them, I'm like, oh yeah, you could do this, and oh yeah, you could do that. And what I'm really excited like right now is I think the creation and play option in the core rulebook, where you instead of using the life path to create a character, you start with kind of the bare bones, and then you just kind of like discover the character as you go. I think the secrets optional rules are going to tie into that really really well, and make it even more possible for a player to create a character that grows and changes over the course of a campaign, very similar to how a character grows and changes on a TV show. Because of course, in the TV show, they start with a series Bible where they might have a couple of paragraphs about a character, and not a huge amount has been fleshed out. And then the writers and the actor and the directors, as they do the series and they go episode to episode, that's when they start fleshing it out. So you kind of discover the character, over the course of a longer story. And I think to really emulate that in Star Trek Adventures, I think creation and play plus the secrets is going to be a really cool way to do that. And I just can't wait to see what fans do with that, if they embrace it or not. So I'm excited either way, just to see what happens.
If I may ask, it sounds like you and Nathan work a lot more together on this book. I mean, he works with you a lot, especially with the making of the second edition for Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
Adventures. But it sounds like you both talked a lot when it comes to this the exploration guide.
Mm-hmm.
Is it when it comes to working together? Do you bring out the concepts first? Do you say, "Hey, I want to work on this," and then he brings the ideas to you how to make that happen? How does that work? How does you being a project manager, the one with the ideas,
Mm-hmm.
work with someone who's all about the rules? How does that work?
I think, I mean, after 9 years now, I think we've got a really good working relationship. He might say otherwise. I don't know. I can't speak for him. He may think I'm a pain in the butt, but what happens is all of our products go through a feasibility study and then an outline, and I put the outline together, at least the initial cut of the outline, and then I'll send the like chapter one. I'll send the chapter one outline to Nathan and say, okay, conceptually, here's what I'm thinking for the chapter. You've got 10,000 words or 8,000 words or whatever it is. Um, let's put some cool stuff in here and go crazy. And for the tech manual, he had specific things that he wanted that he already had been noodling on, because like he did a lot of work on the core book, and he's been working on the line steadily throughout the time. He's like, well, I got this idea for this, and I got this idea for that, and it's like, oh, cool, that'll fit, that'll fit. And then he put the draft together, and then I do my top down edit and I refine it. And if I'm reading some mechanics that don't make sense to me, I'll ping him and say, hey, what was the intention here? We'll tighten up the wording a little bit in some places if the wording's a little vague, or if we accidentally get a word wrong or something, like we're talking about momentum here. Did we mean determination? Um, he obviously has a much better grasp of the rule set than I do. Although I'm pretty conversant with Star Trek Adventures, especially more so now that I've done the deep dive work on second edition. Like I was much more deeply involved in second edition development than I was on first edition, obviously, because I was just a freelance writer at the time, so I just did a little bit of the work on the first core book. But so Nathan takes my outline and bends and folds it and spins it and mutilates it and makes it makes up his cool stuff and presents it. And I'd say 99 times out of 100, it's as he wrote it. Again, like I said, I do it an edit pass, and we get a proofreader to do it and all that stuff. But he's got such a great grasp of the mechanics, and he's also a huge Star Trek super fan, just like me. So like we're pretty much on the same wavelength as far as what we're wanting to accomplish with each book. Once we've looked at the outline, we've got the concept of the book, we know where we want to go with it, and then I can set him loose doing the cool mechanical stuff that he loves to do, and then I'm focused on everything else.
Mm. So before we, uh, so the end of chapter one, there's a section about exploration discovery,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to say, I love this section. I hope players and game masters that love like the options for player for I hope that game masters and players that love options for their characters don't miss this section at the end, because I found this section to be very good, very interesting, because I can tell you the discussions we have about perception and
Mm-hmm.
what do we need to roll exactly. I think sometimes we over roll, we do too many rolls for perception. Um, and then if that person fails that role for something that should be very simple to something that helps push the story along, they
Yep.
fail, and it just messes things up a little bit.
Right.
And I love that the fact that the difficult, I don't want to say difficulty rating. It's called when yeah, it's difficulty, right? Difficulty
Mm-hmm.
zero. I love that that for like just simple perception or just understanding basic observation, you can still roll just a difficulty zero roll, and
Mm-hmm.
most likely you will make it. But it's fun that it's a possibility of some sort of weird complication. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Mm-hmm.
it's it to me that solves a lot of problems. I think
Yeah.
that my players and I sometimes have about how do we observe things exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and with that, I love the analysis part of it where you players get rewarded for making a hypothesis about what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and how the roles work with that and everything. I found that to be really amazing, because
Yeah.
that again, what I mean, it, I love that there's great player options, but I really love these little things you've added in that helps game masters like myself make the, this game feel more rewarding for like solving mysteries of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think I mean really at its heart, like the vast majority of Star Trek episodes are mysteries, right? It's the crew trying to figure out something, right? There's some mystery placed in front of them. They got to figure it out. They got to do the research. They got to do the studies. They got to gather the information. And so I think this chapter is absolutely useful for game masters, but I think the players should be looking at it too, especially the players who played first edition and really liked the scientific method, because these rules options here in the exploration guide are really kind of the second edition spiritual successor to the scientific method, where you're forming a hypothesis, and then you're testing the hypothesis, and you're gathering information, and you're failing or you're succeeding. But either way, whether you succeed or fail, you've got more data, and then you do a new hypothesis, and you just go from there. Hopefully these will get a lot of use, and I can't wait to hear feedback from folks as they start messing with it.
Hmm. Now, this book is broken into 5 chapters. The one
Mm-hmm.
we just talked about for about 20 minutes now is called
It's everyone.
it's called Supplemental Game Mechanics. But I promise you, viewers and listeners, the next 3 are actually pretty quickly. I promise you, the next 3 will be pretty quick in explaining what they are, because they're pretty short chapters, but they're very important chapters. And the way these last 4 chapters are in this book is very interesting. It feels like if like it's like a funnel of information. Like the first chapter, the second chapter, sector generation, as the name says, deals with the sector, the 8,000 cubic light years of space, and what's
Mm-hmm.
in there, and how to create something like that. And then chapter 3 gets a little small. We start talking about solar systems or star
Mm-hmm.
systems, and what's in that space. And then chapter 4, the planet itself, not particularly the like particulars, I guess you could say. It's more like, all right, is this a planet like Mercury? Is this a planet like Earth, modern Earth, prehistoric Earth? Is it like Jupiter? Is it a gas? Is it a gas planet? Um, and as I mentioned before in the beginning, I love these 3 chapters because they give you. I know it's based on a science fiction show, but the science of it uh, really like it's really I don't know, just reminded me of the of when I was younger and enjoyed learning that stuff for the first time. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
um, but
No, that's great. That's exactly what we were shooting for. I think one of the things I love about Star Trek, any given episode is like when they're really running on all thrusters and they're really doing well, they find a way to push that sense of wonder button so that sure, there's some drama going on or there's some character thing going on, but at the same time, oh, they're they're researching a pulsar out in deep space or something, right? And it's like, oh, and you get this cool visual of the ship and the science and stuff, and that's something that I know, me personally, I'm never going to get out into space. I just don't have, I'm old and I'm not an astronaut, and I'll never be able to get into orbit. But I can imagine what it's like. And then so for TV shows like Star Trek to be able to show us, oh, this is a possibility. Here's a cool planet. Here's a cool asteroid field. Here's a black hole, and the ship's going into the black hole. And how is that? How cool is that? And so I really wanted to try to like push that sense of wonder button with this book. And so I worked with Aaron Pollier. I said, look, we have an opportunity to take all the stuff that you did in the Shackleton book and then Captain's Log and really blow this out even further into 3 full chapters. Like here's lots of word count for you to play with. Give me lots of meat and lots of ways for us to encourage game masters and players to hit that sense of wonder, so that like you said, you're not just creating a planet or you're not just creating a planetary system. You get to create an entire sector of space. And I think a lot of us really struggle to understand just how impossibly big space is, right? And like you alluded to it earlier in the call where you said, even with the 4 quadrant books, there's still plenty of Star Trek that we haven't explored yet. And the Milky Way is vast, and we haven't even touched a portion of that. So hopefully this book will give game masters and players the freedom to like go make your own stuff. Like get out of the Alpha Quadrant, or get out of known space, get out of the Klingons and the Romulans and the Cardassians, and go make something completely new and different, and just boldly have fun and just create stuff. And I'm really glad that Aaron was able to put in just enough science, real science, and made it accessible. Because I'm totally a science. I'm a layman, right? Like I'm like astronomy 101 is about the best I've got. Right? I don't have the deep knowledge, but he made it all accessible and readable. And it's like, I got excited when I was reading the manuscript, and I can hear you got excited too when you're looking at all the different like planetary types and descriptions, and all the stuff that you can put into a sector. And it's like, and that gets my game master brain energized and revved up. It's like, oh, I don't have to try to like figure this out. I can just start rolling on these tables, and all of a sudden I've got a sector, and all of a sudden I've got like 3 or 4 planetary systems I can send my players to, and that's just a huge time saver for me. But it's also just fun to like just sit down and just like create stuff, right?
hmm. um, One thing I like about these 3 chapters, I'll say this real fast
Mm-hmm.
before we talk about chapter 5, which is the biggest chapter of the book.
Yeah.
Um, I love that even if the information we contain within might be hmm, maybe overwhelming, especially if you need to create something real fast for your adventure. I love that there's a lot of charts and a lot of tables available, so you can just roll something right away if you need to. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's wonderful. It gives, if your players decide to uh, go left instead of right that you planned, and you don't know what's out there exactly, you can just quickly roll something in 5-10 minutes, and then
Mm-hmm.
have something have a who knows, just by what you roll you may have an adventure popping
Yeah.
ahead ready for
Yeah.
you. So I think that's really wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Absolutely.
Chapter 5, Planetary Biomes. Again, the biggest chapter in this book. This chapter is wonderful. There are so many different settings that players and game masters can use for their adventures.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think I like best. Oh, so let me not jump too far ahead. And I love that there's like we have like all the we have the I guess all the different settings available that you can choose from. You can have like jungles, you can have forests, deserts, plains, water biomes. I love all that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I love best about each section as a game master is that the way you set this up is that And let me go ahead and instead of let me see. Give me 1 second. I want to jump to that. Ugh, PDFs. What good are you? Um,
Oh, PDFs, right?
sorry. Give me 1 quick second. Let me. All right, there it goes. There's the chapter guidelines, and let me just go to any of them. Let me go to cave systems, the first one you have here. So
Hmm.
what I love about this section is that you're not just explaining what's in there. There's these like story events that you have in here. You have events that can happen here. But each one I read, it felt like to me that okay, I can stay in this one section and have like 4 or 5 adventures.
Hmm.
You know, if I wanted to, if I could go, if I wanted to make some sort of like lost civilization inside this cavern, I can uh, push that adventure to about maybe 6 or 7 sessions. That's
Hmm.
what it felt like to me. I don't know if I'm looking too into it, but there's so much information here of what's available, and of course, again, I love it that that complications can make things even more crazy, you know, or if you become more successful.
Hmm.
Um, was that some of the uh, was that what you were thinking when you made this section, or am I did I just read this wrong the
No,
whole
no, no.
time?
You absolutely read it right. Like I was in the outline. I was like really intentional. It's like, okay, we're going to do as many biomes as we can fit into the book, and like, I wanted to get all 9 in there, and I managed to make it work so that we could fit all 9 into the book. In fact, this book's a little bit longer than the tech manual. We got 16 extra pages to work with in here because I really wanted to fit those everything in here, and I wanted each biome to be just packed full of not just information about that biome, like all the different terrain that's in that biome, all the possibilities that are, if there's any particular creatures or animals or flora or fauna that's related to that biome. Let's put that in there in some random tables. And using a cue from Captain's Log, right? We wanted to make sure that every biome had an advantage table and a complications table. So if you're stuck in the middle of a desert, okay, is there anything that might help you? What if you roll a complication? What does that mean? I mean, because a complication in the desert might be very different from a complication in the tundra, right? Or in the water or something, obviously. And so I wanted to make sure that they were all tailored to each specific biome. And and yeah, absolutely. Every biome's got its own story set of potentials. Like you got different stories that could happen in a water environment versus a tundra versus a jungle versus a swamp, etc. And I don't know that I was consciously thinking about a group like using these tables, and all of a sudden you're spending 6, 7, 8 sessions on this one planet in this one biome. But I love the idea, right? I love that unexpected benefit of this to where, like, of course, on Star Trek, you know, most of the series, especially Next Gen and the original series, there it's a planet of the week, right? They're on one planet for 20 minutes, half an hour. Okay, they're in a desert. Okay, and then they leave the desert, and then they're off to the next adventure. Or they're in a tundra and they're there for 20 minutes, and then they're rescued, and that's it. But what happens if you don't? What happens if you're stuck on that tundra for a month? Or like on the cover of the technical manual, what if you're in that shuttle that crashes on the ice planet or in an icy section of a planet, and you're stuck there for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Maybe in your game, you don't want to just cut to the chase and you're rescued and you move on. Maybe you actually want to role play through that 5 months, right? Maybe, and who knows what could come up with. And if you're a game master who likes to maybe not do a huge amount of prep and just see what happens and see where the players take you, this is a great way. Now that I'm thinking through it, is like you could just take these random tables, right? And like, okay, we're going to be in this tundra for another week. Okay, so we show up next week. Okay, roll a couple of quick tables before the session for game prep. It's like, okay, you're going to encounter this creature, or the cave you're in suddenly caves in, right? And now you're in a different part of the terrain, and you've got to deal with that. And we were intentional about adding a lot of potential hazards in each of the biomes as well. So like different little mechanical things that could be treated as like attacks on your characters. Like, this will cause a certain amount of damage and might have a persistent effect, or might have a different kind of like weapon damage effect. So we really played with that idea so that you're not just cold, right? You're actually there's actually things that can impact you. So yeah, I mean, Manny, I hope groups unexpectedly find themselves stuck in some of these biomes for several sessions, just so that they can experience like, okay, what does it feel like to be stuck in the desert for 3 weeks and not have Starfleet able to help you, or whatever your organization is to come help you? Like, can you survive? Like, and what does that mean for your character, right? Are there role playing opportunities that can come up? Are there ways that you can test your values? Are there hidden talents that you have maybe that can come into play? Like, I mean, the classic story is fish out of water, right? So maybe one of your player characters has, I don't know, like cross country skiing as a talent, and they're kind of, or as a pastime, and maybe they're just kind of bummed out that they're never getting to use it. And so, okay, crash them on a crash them in the tundra, and now all of a sudden that pastime becomes important, right? So I
Mm.
think just the story potentials are legion.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking that there are certain episodes in Star Trek where sometimes characters may stay in one place for a good amount of time. I was
Hmm.
thinking about when Data, I don't remember the name of the episode, but Data was lost his memory. Was in this like not prehistoric, like an old version, and like a little bit like a human civilization that was it human? Man, my memory's not good. um, but it was an episode where Data lost his memory and he was stuck in that planet for a good amount of time. Or there was a Deep Space Nine one where it was kind of a time loop episode, but they
Hmm.
crash on this planet and they stay there for a good amount of time. So
Hmm.
this book gives you the tools now, and says to like so that if you want to create new habitats for your characters, you can do so. You know,
Hmm.
so that's really wonderful. You don't have to look for a variation of something you read like in a quadrant book. You could
Hmm.
just make something from scratch.
Right.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else? Well, actually, let me ask you this: what's your favorite thing about is there a setting that you hope to run the most of all these? Like maybe a desert. Is there a desert story in the back of your head that you always wanted to run, or something in the sea?
Yeah, I think I the the water biome I think excites me the most of all of them, partly because that's something we just don't see much on Star Trek, right? I mean, obviously they're exploring space, that's one thing, but I don't think we get enough water stuff. And like I get the practicalities of filming underwater and trying to make it work and make it not look fake, but I just think I think about the Year Five comic book series that was out, and one of the main characters in the Year Five is Ikosa. With they're a water species, and it's just like there's so much cool stuff going on with the underwater cities, and it doesn't hurt that I recently watched the Marvel movie with Namor. So I'm just thinking about all that underwater stuff, and it's like, oh, that'd be so cool to do in Star Trek, and what does that look like, and how do you make it work? And I remember there's I don't remember the name of the adventure offhand, but there was an adventure in one of our books that involved underwater shenanigans, and I ran that for my group a few years ago, and they had such a great time doing that underwater stuff. It's like, oh, because it wasn't just being underwater. It's like, oh, you're also dealing with the pressure of the water against the hull of the ship, and that's a different kind of pressure than being up in space. Um, and it was just a lot of fun. And I would love to explore that in more detail in a game at some point. So that's probably of the nine. That's probably the one that's most exciting to me. Um, but I mean, honestly, I'm tempted. Like the next time I run a planet type of episode, maybe just like roll randomly, like, oh, which biome are you going to be beating down into or crash landing on or whatever, and just like randomly pull one out of the book and say, okay, you're in the jungle. Here we go. And then just start rolling some dice and just seeing what happens. I think that would be would be really freeing for me as a game master because that means I don't have to do a huge amount of prep for the session. But also it's just fun because when you're developing a story, it's nice to not know what happens next sometimes, right? It's nice to be surprised. And I think just letting, and this is something I picked up from playing Captain's Log a lot, is just letting the dice fall where they will. And like, oh, okay, the random table says you're going to encounter a alien culture that's sentient, but they're pre-warp. So now you got to think about the Prime Directive, and then you got to think about this and all this, and then you just you throw that at the players, and you see how they react, and then you just collaboratively build the narrative from there. And I think that's always been the best Star Trek experiences for me at the game table, is like when we're collaboratively vibing and creating stuff together. And if the random tables and the tools in this book, and other books of course, can help facilitate that, then it just makes my job so much easier as a game master.
Mhm.
How about you?
Looking to
Did you have a favorite biome that you're excited to drop in?
Oh wow. The when I don't want to say water because you said water because
All right,
I
you can
have
say
Fred
it.
Love.
Okay.
um, Fred Love, if I remember correct, Fred Love was the one that wrote that 5 year story. If I
He
remember correct,
wrote
because
the he wrote the supplement that we did based on year five. I think
that's right.
the IDW team actually wrote the comic, but
Because
I tapped Fred Love to do the supplement.
okay, because I remember he played we played a game with him, and actually I
Mhm.
think I have a video of that somewhere. I'll put a link somewhere for those who want to see it. But
Awesome.
yeah, I remember we encountered like this aquatic civilization,
Yeah.
which was fantastic.
Hmm.
But just to be a little different, the cold one I would like to explore more. I think cold, especially a very cold, freezing environment, is such a challenge.
Yeah.
Everyone. I think if whether it be heat or cold, I think for me cold is the worst. Like
Hmm.
when like because there's nothing you can do if you have no way to cover yourself.
Right.
So something like that in a frozen environment, I think to me is
Hmm.
much more will be something that I could run really effectively for my players.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, you know.
Yeah, and
Um,
what the great thing is, man, just reflecting on that, is there are, like, outside of Star Trek, there are so many great movies and other television shows that take advantage of different terrain types and tell interesting stories. And the one that comes to mind when you're talking about the Arctic is the mini series called The Terror. Especially the first season of the Terror was all about these two sailing vessels on an expedition getting stuck in the ice in the north, trying to find the Northwest Passage, and then supernatural things happen. In addition to them just trying to survive the bitter cold and lack of food and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, you could do all kinds of stuff in Star Trek, because of course Star Trek, you can do any genre of story in Star Trek, and it'll fit. So like if you want to get into like a really supernatural horror, I mean, in any of the biomes really, take that layer and then just add a layer of the biome on top of it. It's like, okay, you're dealing with some supernatural horror, but you're also in a desert, right? And you got all the desert stuff to deal with in addition to whatever other things that are happening. So I think there's so many ways to play with it. I think, but yeah, I love your ideas. Absolutely.
just to highlight what you just said, I love that each section in this chapter, there's a recommendation list.
Hmm.
Um, so that if you're not sure what a desert adventure would be like
Hmm.
in Star Trek, you
Yeah.
could just watch these episodes and so forth.
Hmm.
I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
The art direction again, the layout and the art for these books are great, and this is no exception.
Hmm.
Anything different you want to share, project manager wise, when it came to the art? Was anything different in putting this
Anything
together?
different? Gosh, I need to flip through my copy real quick just to remember if there's anything different I could highlight. I mean, I think through our, and I know we've talked about this before in other episodes. We were really intentional. Myself and Ariel Aurier, my art director, we were really intentional with second edition, wanting to expand the scope of the artwork so that it wasn't just Starfleet focused. We were adding in Romulans, Ferengi, Orions, Klingons, other species, other factions, just to try to use the art to reinforce the fact that this wasn't just a Starfleet game; it was all Star Trek, right? So you could literally play any character you see on screen at some point. You could make it work in the game, and you weren't kind of encouraged to go Starfleet, right? You could do a lot of other stuff, and we were also really intentional with second edition that we wanted to really expand the scope of like body shapes, body types, genders, alien species. We really wanted to be much more representative of the every possible spectrum that you can think of. Um, so we were really intentional about that. Second edition is also really, I wanted it to be even more focused on the characters, and like just to really highlight that the characters are the most important thing about Star Trek. Frankly, like as a TV show, um, right? You're inviting those characters into your home week in and week out, and you care about them and you get invested in them. And it's like, oh, I want to see what happens to Spock next week, or I want to see what happens to Burnham or to Picard or to whoever. So it's always the characters that are the focus of the series. Certainly you got the science and you got the ships and you got the technology and the pew pew sometimes, but it's always the characters that are the foundational element of Star Trek. And I think that's why you'll see on like most of the covers, it's always character focused instead of starships, and a lot of the artwork we're really trying to focus on characters. And what I really appreciate about Ariel is he really wanted to bring in more, um, what do you call it, like slice of life type of illustrations, to where it's like it's not just them shooting at Klingons, and it's not just this big scientific discovery. It's like they're hanging out in the cafeteria. They're doing a hobby over here. They're you're tinkering with a piece of technology over here. So, and that's the kind of stuff that you see all the time in the RPG, right? Like when I'm playing a game with my group are always doing side things, and like we always have conversations in 10 forward, or we have conversations in the ready room, or we have we're talking about stuff, right? And I think we really wanted to make sure we highlighted that stuff too, because you know, in an RPG, you can explore those kind of scenes at the game table, where that kind of stuff would probably get cut for time if it was a TV episode, because of course TV episodes have to move generally much faster, and you got to cut to the chase, and you got to skip some of those little interstitial like character moments that they may get put on the cutting room floor. But that's the kind of stuff that makes an RPG, so that you got the cool character moments and the cool character interactions. Anyway, so Ariel wanted to get more of that stuff into the artwork, which I was absolutely 100% in agreement with. I was like, yeah, let's do more of that slice of life stuff, and not to say that we're not going to do the combat and the shooting and the pew pew and the starships, but really wanted to get more of a character focus. I don't know that we did anything super different for this book compared to the technical manual or to the second edition core book. We just continue to advance it further. We brought in more body shapes, more body types, more types of characters, more aliens, and you'll see that trend continue into all of our upcoming books as well. Um, and I think it was the technical manual where you know some folks saw the artwork and they saw themselves reflected in the artwork, and then talked about it online. And it's like, well, that's really powerful, because that means that we're trying to show broad representation, and folks out there in the world are seeing it, and they're seeing themselves in the artwork, and that's you can't put a you can't put a value on that. It's like, that's amazing, because that's exactly what we were trying to do, is show that Star Trek is so diverse and open to everybody, right? I mean, it's for everyone, and everyone's welcome, everyone's accommodated, and it's everyone's accepted for who they are. And if you need an accommodation, they'll make a way to accommodate you, and it's all good. So hopefully, people are enjoying that.
Hmm. Do you recall? So this cover is amazing.
Thank
I
you.
I I love it so much. Is there a story behind this cover? Story as in what's happening here in this scene
Yeah,
exactly?
yeah, yeah. So I think I know I'm confident we've talked about this at length in previous episodes. Like, just me being me, I'm constantly working on this game at some capacity all throughout the day, and I work late. I'm a night owl, so I'm editing or proofreading, or I'm working on a book, or I'm noodling on something in the small hours of the night. And Ariel and I, at one point, we were throwing concepts around for the cover. We were like, okay, this is going to be an exploration guide. It's about exploring. It's about planets. It's about moons. What do we do? And we were just thinking about ideas. And one night, I guess it was like, I don't know, 1 in the morning. I was just kind of like spacing out, thinking, and just thinking about exploration and discovery. And I remembered um, two things. I remembered the movie The Dark Crystal, the Jim Henson movie with all the great puppets and animation and stuff. And I remembered one of the main characters, Agura. She had her house was this giant orrery of mechanical planets and moons and gears and levers and stuff that were all kind of active and moving. And then I remember, was it Skyrim? There was a video game, I think it was Skyrim, where like you're in one of the Dwemer dungeons, and there's this big contraption of gears and levers and things that are moving, and it's so incredibly huge that your character is like this little tiny character in and amongst all these big gears and stuff, right? And so like my tired brain put those together. It's like, oh, what if some of our iconic characters stumbled into this huge alien orrery, um, with like holographic planets and moons and things that are spinning and moving, and bronze gears and levers, and like you don't know exactly how it functions and works, but you can see clearly it's planetary systems and it's moons and it's stuff, and there's things happening. And I thought just that concept in my head was really cool. And so what I did is I banged out a real quick art brief, just like just a paragraph or two saying, here's a cool idea for the cover. And then I found a couple screenshots from Dark Crystal and from I think it was Skyrim, and I did a search online for orreries just to kind of get a sense, because like there's a lot of like little models
Mm.
of planetary systems and orreries and stuff, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And so I just threw all those pieces of those pictures into the Word document and sent that over to Ariel, and he liked it and he refined it, and then he sent it to the artist. I think this is Paulo. Let me double check that, make sure I get that right. I always want to make sure the artists are correctly credited. Um, oh no, this is Rodrigo. Yeah, Rodrigo Gonzalez Toledo, um, who's one of our consistent artists on STA. Um, he got the art brief, and then he and Ariel, did their art thing, which I don't always have full visibility in, which is probably just as well because I get too much into the weeds and start tinkering with it. But Ariel sent me a sketch after however 6 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever it was that Rodrigo needed to pull it together. And like even just the sketch just blew me away. I was like, you hit it exactly, right? You got this gigantic panorama of stuff happening, and you got the glowing planets and the moons and all that stuff, and you got the characters clearly with the sense of wonder on their faces, which is exactly what I wanted the whole book to do, right? Is to push that sense of wonder button so that you can create cool stuff. Um, yeah, so I'm really, I think this is my favorite cover of all the ones that we've done so far. And I think part of it is because of how much that blue just pops out, that holographic blue of the planets and the moons and stuff. Um, that got me really really excited. Um, and then to go into the weeds a little a little bit about project management and actually putting a book together for production is when you have a book, if you the way they're bound, right, you have head and tail bands inside the book, that the little tabs at the top and bottom of the book that help hold it all together and are sewn into the binding. Those tabs are actually colored, and you can customize the colors of those head and tail bands. A lot of our books, especially for first edition, were black because most of our covers were black, with the spaceships and stuff. But for this one, I was like, okay, Ariel, we're doing this is a heavily blue cover, blue with some purple. What do you think if we could get dark blue head and tail bands? Would that just change the look of the book, like the finished product, a little bit? And I have the print proof, right, and I'm able to see that dark blue on the head and tail bands. Oh man, it just changes the look of the book, because the book itself is predominantly blue. And I was just super excited when I got the print proof, because I was like, oh, okay, the dark blue headbands worked great. And again, that's a little nerd detail that a lot of fans probably won't even notice or care about, but it made it work, and I'm just So that's the long involved story of the cover. Basically, is inspiration from an '80s Jim Henson movie and a more modern Skyrim bit with orreries and just my random brain coming up with cool concepts, and then of course going through the process. Right, I mean that's always the exciting part is you write an art brief, and then Ariel and his art team go wild and actually create the vision. And it's one thing to write something, but then to someone to be able to take that and synthesize it into a graphic is a whole different level of things, and it's just really cool to be able to see that um, all come together.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's really intriguing. Um, so yes, I know time is almost up.
Yeah,
Is there?
are you willing to hear one more story
Oh
about
yeah,
this?
yeah, please, please.
So, and we didn't talk about it, but this is something that folks might not catch when you're reading the product description and you're getting into the book, is that we actually had the budget and the space to include a fold out map in the book. So when you buy the book, there'll be a map folded in the back of the book. It's not attached. We didn't glue it in. We didn't perforate it in. It's just actually slipped right into the back of the book, and it's a folded map. On one side is the 23rd century map that was in the core rule book and the front end papers, although we modified it a little bit to make it more user friendly. And on the back of that is a 25th century map from the end of Picard season three. So for those great game groups that are playing a very late 24th century or even a 25th century game, you now have a map pulled right from Picard season three to use. And the reason I highlight this little story is we were able to work with our Paramount team to source the 23rd century map because of course Strange New Worlds is the active production it's on. We were able to use their map assets from season end of season two. We added a couple little tweaks to it because we wanted to put the Shackleton Expanse in there just as a highlight where it is in comparison to the rest of their map. And then for this book, we added some navigational aids on the map to make it easier for game masters and players to actually use the map beyond just looking at the awesome picture. But I really, really wanted to include a 25th century map in the book, and because Picard is no longer in production, it's harder to get those assets, right? Because there's no one really to go to anymore to get those assets, and so my partners at Paramount and I spent 6 months, 7 months just trying to find anything and hitting no luck. And then one day I was online just searching for Star Trek stuff as I do late at night, again late at night, and I stumbled upon a video article about the what was it? It was actually I found a sizzle reel from a graphics company that did a sizzle reel because they were trying to get work on Picard at the time, and so they had a lot of cool flashy stuff in the sizzle reel, and then that led me to a graphic designer named Andrew Jarvis who actually worked on Picard through the company that he was working for, and he was one of the ones involved in doing a lot of the on-screen graphics and art that are in Picard season three. So I reached out to him because he had a Twitter account and he had some other stuff, and I was like, "Hey, this is a kind of a shot in the dark, but I'm looking for a map of Picard season three. I know you worked on it in some capacity. Do you have any point of contact that I could reach out to to try to find this darn thing? Because we just haven't had any luck." And I explained who I was and what I was doing, and he actually had the assets on one of his hard drives, and he said, I can't give you the one we used on the show, obviously, but I can create a new one and adapt it for you. And so we commissioned him to create the map, and it's almost identical to the one that was on the show itself. We made some modifications to it. We added the navigational aids to make it easy to use. So all that being said is like we spent a lot of time trying to find this map and to make it work for this book. And what I'm really excited about, it, not just that we found it and made it happen, but to the best of my knowledge, there is not another Star Trek product, like a book, nonfiction book thing out there that has a 25th century map in it, right? That in print that you can actually look at and do something with. And for me, that's just really exciting because it's like, I've got a huge library of Star Trek stuff over the years, and I love maps, and I love all the nonfiction books that have come out over the last 30 mumble years. And to realize that, oh, this might be the first one that actually has this kind of a map in it, that could be a great resource for Star Trek fans, whether they're playing our game or not. Right, this could just be a cool thing for them to enjoy. So that's the whole story. Is like we were able to do all this legwork and find this map and actually get it into the book in a format that people can access. So I'm really excited for that, and I know that there's a section of the fan base that are wanting to play games in that early 25th century. Right after Picard season 3, using the Constitution 3, using some of those newer Starship space frames and stuff, even leading into the Star Trek Online timeline, and hopefully they'll find some use for this map. So I was just excited to make it happen. As a Star Trek super fan, right? It was like two parts of me. It was like, the project manager was really happy because I was able to get it into the book, but then the Star Trek super fan got giddy because it's like, oh, this doesn't exist anywhere else, and it's in our book. This is so cool, right? So it was just it was nice that things worked out the way they did, so that we could get it into the book.
Wow, now I have to buy two copies. One just so it stays in the book and it's pristine, and then one so
Uh-huh.
I could take the map and
Yeah.
put it up on my wall.
Uh-huh. Yeah. In fact, this is a dumb non sequitur, but my family and I were running errands the other day, and we wandered into this like children's learning store, and this children learning store has a gigantic lamination machine. Why this children's learning store has a lamination machine, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they were making like flashcards or learning cards or something. But I looked at it and I was like, that's big enough to put a poster in. I could bring my poster here and I could laminate it, and then I'd never have to worry about it getting damaged. I could just have it,
Hmm.
to put somewhere. So now I may have to take my poster with me and see if I can get it laminated, and not have to buy another copy. So we'll see.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for sharing all this about Star Trek Adventures, the
Yeah, thank you,
Exploration
Manny.
Guide. Again, viewers or listeners, this is right now as of early July. Right now, in pre-order,
Yep,
and if I remember correctly, Modifius, if you pre-order it, you get the PDF first,
yep, right
and
away.
then and then you get a print copy later on.
Yep.
Um, yeah, definitely check this book out. It's a fantastic, fantastic book.
Mm.
Yeah, great job, Jim. Every book, you're just hitting it out of the park, as they
Oh,
say.
thank you. I really appreciate that. That means the world to me. So I'll make sure the team knows as well that that you really enjoyed it. So thank you, Manny, and thanks for having me on the show too. Always a joy to talk to you.
Oh, same here, same here. So, viewers and listeners, thank you for listening. Again, I'll put a link in the description below of where you can pick up the pre-order or the link to the pre-order.
Yeah.
Let me do that again. So, so viewers and listeners, thank you for watching. Again, I'll put a link in the description where you can check out the pre-order for Star Trek Adventures Exploration Guide.
Mhm.
Thank you for watching or listening. Be safe out there. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody. Be well.